This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat. Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Sadler is here to talk about getting you to and through retirement. Logan, of course, is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, serving you in Southern California. My name is Ron Stutz. Always happy to be on the show with you, Logan. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Ron. Looking forward to a fun show here and hopefully pass along some education.
We got a lot of good information to talk about today, and we'll get to that in just a second, but I just wanted to pass along your phone number to everybody out there who'd like to get a conversation with you, a discovery meeting, as we call it, that first conversation, 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you would like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler about your opportunity to get to and through retirement and do it in the most efficient way. Logan can definitely help you. 888-823-PLAN. Hey, Logan, before we get really going on this show today, talking about money and all those kinds of things that we all need to be concerned about, I'm wondering if you saw this story about a high school in Maryland listed for sale online at $42,000. A high school in Maryland was recently listed for sale online at the unbelievably low price of $42,000, presumably as a senior prank by a guy who was just getting ready to graduate from high school. It was listed on...
I knew you were going somewhere funny with that.
It was listed on Zillow, and the description said it had 20 bedrooms, 15 full bathrooms, a private basketball court, and a full library, as well as a complimentary trash-scented air freshener and sewage issues in all the bathrooms. Most financial experts would agree that one of the keys to building wealth is not spending money on things that don't have any lasting value. But there's, of course, disagreement on which things ought to be avoided. And I'm going to ask you if you agree or disagree that the following items should be on a do not buy list for someone trying to build wealth. First of all, luxury items, designer clothing, expensive watches, vintage cars, that sort of thing. Should all of that be on a do not buy list?
Yeah, great point. I mean, I think it comes down to, kind of exactly what your situation looks like. Now, obviously, there's certain people out there that can afford the nicer clothes or more expensive watches, and some people, not everybody, but some people actually have a little knack for that, where they might even make some money off some vintage cars or collectible watches and things like that. There can be some arguments there, I guess, but for the most part, most of, even our instance here at our firm, a lot of our more wealthy clients, we have a lot of clients that have done very well and have really high incomes, and when they retire, they have, significant assets and can still sustain a pretty good lifestyle. And a lot of them don't really go too heavy into that, right? I mean, it's funny, like that old saying, right, where you look at a lot of these famous people, the richer they got, the less jewelry and things like that they wore sometimes, right? So I think that is true in life. I mean, a lot of us, come on, let's be honest, we all enjoy nice things, right? But it definitely is not a way to help increase your situation, especially if you're one of those middle Americans that's trying to kind of, chart out your retirement plan and really kind of get yourself on track. It might not be the best way to go out there and buy a nice expensive watch, but it definitely would be something I would say where if you could resist on that or at least limit that, you'll definitely probably see a little more extra money in the monthly budget.
Well, let's talk about some things that we might call impulse purchases, like lottery tickets for one thing. Of course, some people are very deliberate about buying their lottery tickets, but lottery tickets, shopping sprees, that sort of thing that you do all of a sudden and, you don't really think about it. Is that something that should be on your do not buy list?
It's obviously not the most highest guaranteed return rate, right, to win the lotto. It's extremely hard. And like you said, a lot of people out there with shopping sprees and other things where you see a lot of excessive spending. And that's why I always tell people it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year or you make $500,000 a year. I think knowing what your budget is and knowing where you spend money really helps limit those impulse buys and those purchases that really could end up hurting things because you're budget wise. And so I think it's a great idea to kind of understand where you sit. And I always tell people a lot of the times when they write down a budget or, you can do it online now with these spreadsheets and things like that. It's so interesting, Ron, because so many of them will type in everything and then it'll ask questions like, shopping or anything that's not really, needed. And it's funny because they'll see right away, wow, if I just cut that in half, I'd be saving X amount more per month, or my budget would go down so I could retire earlier or whatever the case is, right? So definitely would recommend limiting those if you could.
Oh, the next one on my list here is kind of hard to explain, I guess, really, but on the do not buy list, should you pay rent? If you're truly trying to build wealth, is rent a good way to get there?
Yeah, on average, no. I mean, right, for most of us out there, you typically do want to buy a home or a condo or whatever type of situation you want. I mean, that is obviously a great way to help build a little bit of equity in the home, and typically over time, it's probably a little bit cheaper than renting. The only downside is I have a lot of clients, Ron, where maybe they did own a home for 10, 15, maybe even 30 years, and then when they transition to retirement or getting closer to retirement, they want to downsize, but they're like, does it make sense for me to buy a $500,000, $700,000 house when I'm 70 years old, right? So maybe, and a lot of them are relocating. Obviously, we're out here in California. We have a lot of our clients that are moving out to, Arizona's, Nevada, different areas. And so maybe they don't want to buy in a new area because they're not sure how they're going to like it. So sometimes renting can be a necessary evil to help get out there. A lot of people, like I've had some of our clients that have passed away and maybe just the wife's alive. Maybe they're not super handy and they don't like fixing things and they're not, super capable in that area. And guess what? It's great. You could hire someone to fix it and they'll fix it for you typically, right? The landlord. So it can be a good way for some people. But traditionally speaking, owning a home is never a bad idea when you look at it long term.
Well, you're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and we're talking about things that are on the do not buy list here as you're getting to and through retirement. And for the folks who are out there trying to build wealth over a lifetime, and so that you're really truly comfortable in retirement, I know that it's not really a good idea to have a lot of high interest debt, and it's a good idea to get rid of all that before you retire, certainly.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, even most people that aren't super financial savvy, right, they kind of understand that. Somehow we always find our way back into those realms, right, or into that problem, so to speak. And it's kind of like that hamster wheel, where you're running to try to get cheese. I see clients, and I'll see clients or clients' kids that I'll talk to, Ron. That's literally what it's like. They'll pay off their really high car. Maybe they had an 8% loan on this $60,000 car. They'll pay that down, and they're like, well, I needed a new camper, or I needed a new RV, and it's just a constant wheel, right? And so you're constantly trying to pay something off. And a lot of the times I always tell people, like your credit cards, I mean, I always ask people, what type of rate of return would you want on your portfolio, over your retirement years or whatever client I'm talking to. And a lot of the people will say, well, 4% would be great, or 8% would be great, or 5% would be great, or whatever the rate of return is. But it's funny when you look at a lot of the interest they're paying out there, right? I mean, credit cards are 10, 15, 20% sometimes, maybe even plus. Student loans are, between 5 to 10% on some of them. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny because a lot of people are paying out way more in interest payments than they're making on their own money, right? So high interest debt can be a way to where it really just kind of cripples you in a lot of ways. Obviously, we need things like cars and things like that to get by. Obviously, we want to have fun, maybe a motorhome or a boat or whatever it is. But it's funny, like I said, a lot of people just get on that hamster wheel, Ron, where they're just running around and just constantly trying to chase the cheese, to where they're just constantly having to make these big payments with high interest that really, you look at it over a 5-year or a 10-year time frame, it could be quite a significant amount that they're having to pay out.
For the people who are listening today who are truly trying to build wealth and get to retirement, you shouldn't buy these overpriced financial products. But I guess I'll leave it to Logan to tell you what those overpriced financial products might be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things out there. I mean, it could be different insurance policies. It could be variable annuities, could be one of those things, right? There's a lot of different things out there where you might be paying a lot more than you think you are, or even just straight for investment advice or management on accounts. I see clients paying 2% or 3% in some cases on certain things, and they're really not getting the value, or really they aren't even in a situation where that product might make much sense. And so one of the things I always talk about in the show is it's okay to pay fees, right? I mean, I think we all understand when you're paying for a good or a service, like we understand you're paying something, right? That's fine. But if it's something that's not providing significant value, or it's not something we couldn't get anywhere else for a cheaper value and to be kind of a similar product, I definitely would say, when you're buying something and paying fees with your retirement, you want to make sure it's something that really is going to make an impact and it's something you really need. More often than not, like I had a client recently, Ron, where they didn't need any income, right? No income. They didn't need a death benefit, nothing like that. And all they really wanted was kind of like a liquid brokerage account and wanted to be in the market and wanted someone to help manage their market investments, right? Well, it was funny. They happened to be in a variable annuity, right, with that portion of their funds. And which, again, a variable annuity, for those of you that don't know, is basically an insurance product that holds, mutual funds or market-based investments. And so it did have that brokerage investment, to it. But it was funny, they were paying inside of that for a death benefit, for an income rider, for a sub-account fees, all this stuff. They were paying right around 4% for that product, right? When really they didn't need any of the other stuff. All they wanted was a brokerage account that you can go pay an advisor, or do it yourself, but you could pay an advisor 1% or 1.5% or whatever their fees are, and save, if I ask most of you out there, would you rather pay 1% or 4%? I mean, it's probably a pretty simple answer if you don't need all the extra stuff involved with it, right? So I think, like we always preach on the show, just kind of understanding where you're at, understanding your situation. And I always find the clients, in this segment, we're talking about building wealth and things like that and things not to buy. One of the things that a lot of our clients that do very well, they're not experts in every single topic, but they understand a general idea of kind of what are we paying, where are our costs, where should we be a little bit tighter in the budget, what things should we not be buying, or how to kind of get out of those ways of paying super high interest debt and following that hamster wheel, right? So, and a lot of that's what a good advisor should be doing. I always tell our clients, when you come on board with our firm, again, a lot of our clients out there listening to the show right now, if you've been listening to it for a while or whatnot, a lot of people we deal with more in the retirement planning space. So a lot of people are typically getting closer to retirement. And so we have a lot of expertise in helping them construct that well-oiled financial plan that's customized to them, but also helping provide that continued advice and education on, what things fit and what things don't fit throughout our financial journey, and what things will be a benefit and what things might kind of set us back some steps. So as we always say, if you're out there and you're getting closer to retirement, maybe you're 50 years old, 55 years old, maybe you're 70 years old, and you're looking for an advisor, or maybe you have a current one, but you're maybe kind of seeing if there's anything else out there that might be maybe a better value to you, or might just be a better fit for you at this point of your life. That's why we offer this radio show here, to give you some good education, but also you can give us a call and come in for that complimentary discovery meeting where you'll get to sit down with me, and we'll get to do a little bit of a one-on-one, whether it's via Zoom or in person, and let's just kind of take a deep dive and see if we're the right firm to maybe help you get to and through retirement.
Why not go ahead and get in touch with Regari Financial today, 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. You can get a one-on-one conversation with Logan Sadler, the same person you hear on this radio show every week. You can do it via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices. There's one in Hammett and one in Redlands. And if you want to talk to Logan, it's not going to cost you anything at all. There's also no obligation. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. 888-823-7526. But easy way to remember it is by using the word PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Ron Sutz here along with Logan Sadler. You're listening to the Financial Beat, and the beat will go on in just a moment.
Are you tired of feeling like taxes are draining your bank account? Do you want to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket? Then download Logan Sadler's 2023 Guide to Tax Planning. This guide is your key to tax optimization and is filled with expert advice, the latest tax laws, and strategies for reducing your tax burden. With the help of Regari Financial and Insurance, you can rest assured that you're making the most of your retirement savings. Just text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 and get the guide for free. Just text ADVICE to 21000.
Everyone has the perfect song for different events. That song you play at the gym to get you really pumped up. And the song that you play on your happiest days. And there are those songs for even your saddest ones. But what song do you hear when you push play on your portfolio? If you don't know, or if you don't like the tune, do something about it. Get a financial plan in place today, and you won't have to wonder what song plays next. Call Regari Financial at 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526 for a complimentary financial review. 888-823-PLAN.
You're listening to The Financial Beat, striking the right chords in your financial plan.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. 2 convenient offices in Southern California, one in Hemet, one in Redlands. If you'd like to find out more about Logan Sadler and his business, go to financialbeatradio.com, financialbeatradio.com. But here's a very important phone number for you if you'd like to arrange a discovery meeting. There's no cost for this, no obligation. 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Call that number today. Leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back, and you can have a discovery meeting with Logan. And that's simply a conversation, getting to know you conversation. You can do it via Zoom. Maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. Different people have different mindsets when it comes to their views on retirement. Describe the different conversations you've had with people expressing these various mindsets. Number one, you have a guy who says, I absolutely hate my job. How soon can I retire?
Yeah. We definitely have talked with people like this, right? Where it's like, man, hey, I'm over it, right? And I've talked to a lot of people out there recently where they're 55 years old or 60 years old and they were going to work till 65. And they're just like, man, I can't stand this job anymore. I'm ready. And a lot of the times it's leadership change. Maybe their boss left. You know, we have a lot of people at like a lot of the utilities like Edison or AT&T, Verizon, where maybe they've just gone through management changes, or even some of our RN clients where things have just shifted. And so they're maybe ready to pull the plug early. And one thing I always tell people is, it depends on when you can retire, right? There's many different options out there. And I always say it starts with this conversation, a few of these things right here, where I'll say, here's some options. You could take maybe significantly less money and retire now. You might be able to get another job where you like working, and maybe you work another 5 or 10 years, depending on your age and what your plan calls for. And then also, I think the most important thing is it starts with sizing up your current situation, right? What type of retirement could you have if you retired now? What type of income would you have? How old are you? How far till Social Security, right? Or how, going through all those types of questions, healthcare, all that stuff is something where, again, that's one of the things we do with a lot of our clients. And that's why we always tell people, it's the earlier you come on board with us, the better, right? And most advisors would agree with that. And a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, we just want new business as soon as we can. And that is not the reason. I mean, obviously we all like having new clients and people join the firm, but a lot of the reason is there's time to get a plan together to where hey, if we make some changes now or did this differently or that differently, you might be able to retire a year or two early or earlier, and you have an idea of what that would look like, right? So I think that's kind of where you start out with, is kind of sizing up your current situation and then talking about those other 2 topics I had talked about, as far as maybe getting a different job that you like for another couple of years, or if you could retire now, how much less money would you be leaving on the table, and if it's worth it or not?
Okay, here's somebody in a totally different situation. Let's say that she comes in and says, I'm starting to think about retirement. I've been listening to your radio show, but I really have no idea when I can retire or how much I can spend when I do retire. How do you help her?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think that's kind of where we kind of specialize in, right? A lot of our clients, you're not alone out there. This person's not alone when they're asking this question, because many of our clients are people that come in and meet with our firm from one of our webinars or from one of the radio shows or podcast or YouTube. They don't call in, and a lot of them don't say, I know exactly what my situation's like. A lot of the times they go, look, I've been working 30 years. I'm an RN. I work at Kaiser, or I work at Costco, or whatever the situation is, right? And they go, I've maybe accumulated some assets. I got a 401k with a couple $100,000 in it, or $1 million in it, or whatever the situation is. I have a Social Security. I might have a pension or not, but here's kind of my situation, and what can I do with that, right? A lot of clients I call it a lot of different puzzle pieces, and they're looking for people to help put that piece together to make the puzzle, right? And that's kind of what the advisor should be there to do. We always start with a lot of questions and trying to get to understand your situation and what you're trying to accomplish, and then we can start building out that retirement plan. I think everybody out there, it's so important that you have a roadmap, right? A lot of people say, well, I have an advisor, he manages my stocks and bonds. Well, that's great. but you need someone to help put together a roadmap for you. Hey, if I retired at this age, here's how much income I could draw, and here's where it would come from, and here's how long it could last, right? So I think going over that roadmap with a lot of people in that situation, Ron, really helps open their eyes as far as what's realistic and sustainable.
This next one here gets kind of humorous sometimes because you hear it over and over and over again.
I think I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. I'd love to retire soon, but I've heard that you need $1 million to be able to retire, and I still have a long way to go. First of all, why do so many people think you need $1 million? Like that's magical. And then,
I know.
And then what do you tell them when they say that?
It's funny because sometimes my answer, it just pretty much the same almost all the time. I always say, you might need $1 million, you might need $3 million, or you might need 500,000, right?
Yeah.
It really depends on your situation and what type of income and what type of retirement you plan to live, how old you are, health, all that stuff, super important because a lot of you out there, $1 million is more than enough to retire to maybe live your lifestyle you want in retirement. And some of you out there, it's way off. I have some clients, they have $3-4 million, and it's barely going to sustain the retirement they want, right? Because maybe they're going to travel a lot. They want a really high income. They still have a high house payment, all of those things, maybe younger kids at home. So a lot of stuff could contribute to that. I always tell people you really never know how much money you need until you sit down and, like I talked about, going over your retirement roadmap. What does the blueprint of your retirement look like? How much money do I need? How much income do I need? Where is it going to come from? When can I start it? And how long is it going to last? What tax situation am I looking at? All of that, Medicare, healthcare, all those kind of questions go into that retirement plan, and you don't really know how much income or how much assets you need until you go over how much income can it really produce and how long would it be sustainable for.
Yeah. Boy, we're talking about different situations and what people think and what they say about being able to retire. And there's a certain type of person out there who, actually enjoys work and enjoys seeing people every day and says, I don't ever plan to retire. I'd be bored. Well, how can that become a problem?
Yeah, I have one of the clients, one person I'm working with right now, and we have a 3-step process. So a lot of you guys out there listening, and maybe if you're a client, you already know, but basically when you come on board with our firm, we have that discovery meeting we always talk about. We'll go over your situation and what you're trying to do and tell you a little bit more about our firm and see if we're a good fit to move to meeting 2. So we do meeting 1. Meeting 2 is where we'll go over, a proposal, a strategy, some action items we call them, what we're going to implement. And then at meeting 3, we'll go over, okay, what questions do you have? What do we got to cover? And then here's how we move forward. One of the people I'm working with right now is we're going through that exact process. And it's funny because he does not plan to retire. They've got enough money to where I've ran all the different proposals and different analysis where, he could basically go out with what he's making right now, maybe even more, if he pulled the plug, but he doesn't want to. He really enjoys working. His wife's happy with him working, and he's able to work a minimal amount. He's not working 50, 60 hours. He's working 30, and so he's still able to do everything he wants to do. He is 73 years old, Ron, and he's going to continue to keep going, right? Yeah. So, it's at a situation where now we just got to kind of model that into the plan and discuss on how that impacts certain things like taxes and all that stuff. But getting a plan together to not retire is okay. But having a plan to where if you had to retire, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And boy, that really is a sad situation, with some of these things we're talking about. And it's really great. This guy's in his 70s. He's not planning to retire. That's cool too, whatever. Yeah. If we really cut back on some of our spending, we could probably retire soon. Is that a realistic way to look at this thing?
It is, right? Sometimes cutting back spending would maybe contribute to retiring early, but can we really cut down spending, right? I always tell clients where I had one client where they were making like $250,000 a year, right? And they had been making that for quite a while. And they had said, well, if we retired, I think we could live off 50 or 60,000 a year if we had to, right? Yeah. And I was like, well, you haven't done that in 15 or 20 years, right? So it's easy to say, but is that really the lifestyle you want to live? So I told him, I said, you know what, before we make any decisions, I said, try it. Do 6 months. If you could live off, $50, $60, $70,000 a year, or let's see what you could live off of and still live the life you want to. And it was funny. Like, okay, no problem. So it was kind of like a little challenge, right? And they came back like 3 months in and were like, yeah, nope, can't do it, right? It's more like 150, right? And so it's okay to understand, a lot of us can cut expenses, we could do different things, but having an idea of kind of what your realistic monthly budget looks like and making sure it's realistic. Yeah, you could always cut a little bit of things here and there, but a lot of us don't plan on drastically cutting our lifestyle as we go into retirement. So I think having those realistic expectations are as important as anything. And again, Ron, that's what we always say. When you come in for the discovery meeting, we're sitting down, we're going over all these different situations. And one thing I always talk about on the show is kind of, I talked about a retirement roadmap or a blueprint, right? Many clients or many of the people I meet with, they might have $2 million with an advisor. They might have $500,000 with their advisor or at a 401k or wherever it's at. And they've never had anybody actually sit down and do financial planning with them, right? A lot of the stuff we talked about, I think it was 5 or 6 things we just answered, Ron, where we talk about all of that and model all of that throughout our retirement roadmap. I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, here's your 401k, your Social Security, here's a pension you might have. Here's if we did this and did that, here's where we could retire at 62. And here's what our income would be. Here's where our tax rate would be. Here's how much might be left if you passed away after taking that much income. Here's how long it would last. We're able to really chart out that roadmap and talk about tax efficiency, Roth conversions, things like that. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And we're really able to model a lot of that as far as what you need or might need in retirement, and a lot of those what if scenarios, right? What if my husband passed away early? What if we worked 2 years longer? What if we worked 2 years less, right? And really help model that roadmap to give you that clear picture of what the next 20 or 30 years of your retirement plan will look like. And that is exactly what our firm does with all of our clients that come on board with our firm. So if you're one of those people out there, and again, maybe you got some old money sitting in some 401ks or some IRAs, or you have an advisor and you're just feeling like you're not getting that full picture of the retirement plan, definitely think it doesn't hurt to give us a call. And again, there's no commitment or anything like that. Let's just see if we're a good fit to go through that discovery process and again, show you a little bit of what building that retirement roadmap might look like.
Hey, that important phone number is 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Call that number and you can arrange to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler, the same person you hear on this radio show every single week. He's not going to put you off on anybody else, but at the same time, you're going to have an outstanding team of folks who can work with you and help you get to and through retirement. Logan Sadler, of course, the point man, sort of like the point guard on a basketball team. He can help you, but first you have to reach out. 888-823-PLAN. You can have a discovery meeting, which is kind of a getting to know you session. You get to know him, he gets to know you, maybe via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, 2 of them, Hemet and Redlands, wherever you are in Southern California. Logan Sadler can help and would like to help you get to and through retirement in the most tax efficient and efficient in every other way possible. 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Are you tired of feeling like taxes are out of your control? Take charge of your financial future with Logan Sadler's 2023 Guide to Tax Planning. This comprehensive resource is more than just a collection of tax tips. It can help you optimize your Social Security, retirement savings, and investments. And with the help of Regari Financial and Insurance, you can rest assured that you're making the right decisions. Download the guide today and start taking control of your financial future. Just text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 and get the guide for free. Just text ADVICE to 21000.
This is The Financial Beat.
You're listening to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. And Logan, it's time for our Getting to Know You segment of the show. And my question to you is, do you normally fall asleep easily, or does it take you a while?
Yeah, that's a great question. Those of you that know me personally, I actually have a very hard time falling asleep. I'm one of those people that I tend to think about my whole day, and I tend to think about tomorrow's day and then 5 years from now and all that other stuff. So I typically am in bed between, I'd say, 9 and 10 o'clock, and I probably end up falling asleep around, I would say, closer to 12 to 1. I'm kind of a late night guy.
Wow. Well, I'm a late night guy too, but I can fall asleep just like that.
Really? People always like tell me, oh, it's so cool that you could stay up late and get up early and do all that stuff. And it is nice being able to have that option. But man, sometimes I would just really like to be able to go to bed, As
soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out usually. So, or can
I'm
be
jealous.
if I want to be. So, hey, that's something else. Well, you're one of those warriors, I guess, when you think about, what you did all day and what you're thinking about doing the next day and how you're going to help your clients, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what the end goal is.
That is our Getting to Know You segment today. You're listening to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. More in a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on The Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
We're back now with more of The Financial Beat with the one and only, often imitated but never duplicated, Logan Sadler. You like that description, Logan?
I do. I think that was had a nice ring to it.
Well, I just want you to know that you're my role model when it comes to planning for retirement, getting to and through it. And I'm glad you have this radio show because you can share your knowledge and your wisdom with everybody else out there. So,
well, awesome. I appreciate that. And I'd be lying if I'd said I didn't enjoy it. It's quite a bit of fun.
Oh, I know you do, man. As a matter of fact, folks, Logan wakes up in the morning. He gets up and he looks in the mirror and says, I'm going to help somebody today. And that's pretty much the truth. I mean,
yeah.
And you can count on, helping somebody, making their life better before the day's out. So, that's a great way to go.
Absolutely.
888-823-PLAN is your number to call, and you can get out of that what we call a discovery meeting. That is an opportunity to sit down and talk with Logan Sadler. You can do it via Zoom and still be looking at each other that way, or you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, either Redlands or Hemet, your choice. It's not going to cost you anything, not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that. 888-823-PLAN. Hey, not only does Logan have this radio show here, but he's got a variety of podcasts that are out there and YouTube videos. Logan, I'm amazed at the number of YouTube videos that you have accumulated over the years on a variety of topics.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny. We do pretty much one a week, so it adds up pretty quick, and we really enjoy doing it. And for those of you guys that have been heading over there and checking that out, we really appreciate all the support. And how you find that out is you head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and you'll find all the YouTube videos. And there's, again, a lot of them on like you said, Ron, a lot of different topics. Yeah. And a lot of them are viewer questions, people writing in or commenting on the channel. I know one of our most popular ones right now is, how much should I have saved by age 60? A lot of you guys out there listening to the show have really enjoyed that one. But there's a lot of other ones that might pertain to your situation, and we're trying to do videos that are kind of more geared towards people that are getting ready to plan and prepare for retirement. But we also have some out there for a younger audience on how to get started for retirement. And again, head over to The Financial Beat on YouTube and check that out. Follow along and click subscribe. And also, if you have any other questions or videos you'd like us to do, go ahead and leave a comment on one of the videos. That way we can get to it and get that going.
All right. Well, hey, Logan, they're very well done and very helpful, and I hope that everybody will take advantage of that. Hey, let's talk about some situations that are really awkward moments, and I know you go through a lot of these when you meet with folks because different people have different issues. Yep. Part of being a good financial advisor is helping people navigate awkward and uncomfortable situations related to their money, and we've often talked about how you have to put on different hats when you deal with folks. Sometimes you feel like a marriage counselor or a psychiatrist or whatever the case
absolutely.
may be. But let me name a few situations here, and you tell me how you guide clients who find themselves in these awkward scenarios.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that there's a really high probability you've encountered most of these in real life at some point.
That'd be awesome. I'm excited.
Let's say that a client wants to remove one of their children as beneficiary on their accounts. Have you had this happen?
Yes, I have. And it's funny what you said about one of these things probably happening. Me, Brenda, and Debbie here at the office, we kind of always, joke around with each other where between us, we've been here between 7 years and 25 years.
Yeah,
so we have a pretty long history here, and so it's funny. We always joke one of us or all of us has seen not everything out there, but pretty much, right? It's very rare where we see a situation where we go, wow, that's never happened, right? And this is no different. Like you said, wanting to remove one of their children. I always tell people in this situation, it's not awkward for me because I always tell them it's never one of those situations where it's not my money. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to make any type of guesses or make things uncomfortable. My job simply is just to put all the information that you're giving me and put it all into the most accurate plan we can. That's going to help facilitate what it is you're trying to accomplish with your plan, right?
Sure.
And so I'm just here to give you some advice. I always tell people, whether it's taking more risk, less risk, taking income, beneficiaries, whatever it is, I mean, it's your money and we could do whatever you want to do with it. My job is just to help give you the best advice to get you wherever we're trying to go. And so that's why I always tell people, you don't ever have to be shy about things. The whole point of our relationship is it should be very open and we should be able to talk about things. Just kind of talking through a lot of those scenarios. Sometimes it's very justified. I've had some clients where they just have had some really unfortunate fallouts with their children, and it could be one side or the other, but it's your money. And at the end of the day, I have clients where they leave large percentages to charity. I mean, some of it might not even go to their kids. Sometimes it goes to charities or the grandkids. And that's fine too. I mean, at the end of the day, my job is just here to help kind of guide you and give you the best direction and to talk you through those scenarios, because it might be something where we might be overreacting a little bit and maybe some time will go by and we'll change it, right? Or maybe we won't end up doing it because time went by and you're like, you know what, that was a little silly. I'll leave it as is. Joey ended up calling me the next day on my birthday, right? So thinking through those things and walking through it is what an advisor should be there to do.
Hey, here's another situation that I know you've dealt with a lot, and because it's so common. A couple that you've worked with for a long time is getting divorced, and I know that's a really difficult situation.
It is. It really is. And one of the things I always tell people, and we do have experience with this a couple different times, which is it's always very unfortunate, and I always tell people sometimes divorce is very sad, and it's one of those things where it's it's a bummer to see things end, but sometimes it's also a good thing for them. I've seen it where both people end up maybe living a little bit more of a healthier life, and I don't mean going to the gym or like that, but maybe they're just found a new passion and things like that. People drift apart. Yeah, totally get all that. One of the things I always say, again, not here to judge or make any type of decision or judgment, just kind of help guiding you guys through. And one of the things I always tell both of them is, we've had a lot of them stay on as us as their advisor, even after the separation. And one of the things I always tell them through that is, making sure that, I'm here to act in the best interest of both of them, right, if they're both my client. And so it's one of those things where we'll kind of walk through what the details of that look like, but just kind of guiding them through those situations, because it happens a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of people end up getting divorced around their 40s or 50s. It just kind of tends to be another wave of when that happens. And so we're obviously here to guide them through that. And I've had some clients where if they don't feel comfortable with us as their advisor for both of them, that's fine. We'll find one of them another advisor that might be a good fit for them. But to be honest, almost every time they've decided to stay on board with us because we've helped get them to that point and they've known us for a long time and they feel comfortable and and they trust that we're not going to pick a side or anything like that. We're there to help guide them both in their own individual situations after that.
Well, that's certainly a good reflection on you and the folks at Gary. Yeah,
I take it as a compliment for sure.
Yeah. Let's say that somebody gets crying in your office because of some kind of financial stress, and I realize that's a really common situation too, isn't it?
Yeah, it actually is. And I always tell people, let it out, right? If it's something that's going on and you got to let that emotion out, let it out. I mean, that's not good to keep things bottled up. And so, yeah, unfortunately that does happen a lot, but it's one of those things where in our industry, we're very aware that we deal with a lot of very sensitive topics, right? Someone might have just lost their husband of 30 years or 40 years. Someone might have just gotten divorced. Someone might have lost a kid or a grandkid. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why they might be in our office and going through some emotion. And so, like I always say, our job is to help. Obviously, first things first as a human is to be able to reason with them and go through everything and be there to kind of comfort them, but also really to now that we're through this emotion or we're going through this emotion, what's the best financial decisions and things like that we need to make with taking the emotion out of it, right? I think that's really where the advisor should be able to kind of step in and help out. But yeah, that's happened many different times for a lot of different reasons.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Regary Financial, 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan about your situation. The important thing to remember is that conversation is not going to cost you anything at all. It's not going to obligate you to do anything at all. We call it a discovery meeting. If you want one, I'll give you that number again coming up in just a few minutes here. But we're talking about awkward moments that may be awkward for the folks that Logan is helping, but he really doesn't find them very awkward because he's dealt with just about all these scenarios before. Let's say, Logan, that a client of yours has made an emergency or an embarrassing financial decision, like maybe they got scammed out of some money. somebody really took advantage of them, and they believed them, and then lost a whole bunch of money that way, or maybe they just blew through a whole lot of money because they were addicted to drugs or gambling or whatever the case may be. They made some kind of a dumb decision. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's funny. Both of those it's not funny, but it's a coincidence that you mentioned those topics because, it's both of those have happened. I've had a client where she was in her 70s and a nephew of hers had this bulletproof idea, right? We've all heard of those. Oh, yeah. He had a bulletproof idea where they had this real estate deal if she just pulled all her money out of her IRA that grandma had been saving for decades, right? If she took out $100,000 out of her IRA, paid the taxes on it, of course, right? So now they lost, 20 or 30%, depending on her income. They had this bulletproof real estate idea that was supposed to go through the roof. Everybody would be rich, right? Well, unfortunately, didn't go through, ended up having to file bankruptcy on it, right? I mean, I've seen that and she was super embarrassed because, of course, we told her that the math's not adding up, right? Nothing's bulletproof. What's going on? Let's find out some more details. And she trusted, unfortunately, the wrong person, and that ended up happening. But again, when she came back to talk to us about what to do or what to do after that, we're not one of those people where it's like, well, remember I told you so, right? No, it's one of those things, well, we made that decision. How can we fix it, right? That's really where I think we focus on is, that you made that decision, it's done with, nothing we can harp on now, but how do we focus and get back on track? Yeah. And on the other case, Ron, I actually had this last, I'd say 2 months, I've had 3 different clients call in because their spouse had a bad gambling problem, right? And it was hurting their financial picture, and they needed someone to talk to get some guidance on maybe how to go about that, right? Yeah. And so that's again what the advisor is here for. And again, that's really a lot of our clients when we're managing their money. Some of them have $500,000 with us, some of them have multi-millions of dollars with us, and I think it's still important to help give that advice because at the end of the day, it could be a big impact on the plan. It could be obviously for the marriage and partnerships that could be difficult. So we're here to kind of help walk through and guide through that situation because it's one of those that could be, either of those could be very, very tricky.
Yeah, and let me just say that, I talked about people getting scammed and getting screwed out of a whole bunch of money because they fell victim to some kind of scam. There's so much of that going on right now. It's just...
It's crazy. It's crazy. Some of them sound so good, they almost get me, right, when you hear them out, right?
Yeah, that's right. But let's say another scenario here. A client is in the middle of a squabble with their siblings as they deal with their parents' estate. And I know that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. And I always tell people one of the things we're a big proponent of, I was actually just having a conversation with a client who's coming on board, who decided to come on board with our firm. And it was, one of the things why he decided to go with us, because I had told him, hey, and he had, large assets and was just a really great family, and I really enjoyed the conversations throughout our meeting process with him and his wife. And it was like, one of the things I'm a big proponent of is, whoever's in charge of your estate or whatever, whatever kids you have, I'd love to meet them and just kind of, whether it's a phone call and just kind of talk through, hey, if anything happens, we're the ones to call. We understand mom and dad's financial picture probably the best, and we could help walk you through everything. Yeah. And I think that kind of helps eliminates a lot of that fear, because if something happens, the siblings are always worried about, well, who's getting more, or what if they didn't have everything set up, or whatever, right? And I've seen many instances, Ron, where it's gone smooth, right? We've been able to, everything was set up correctly, there was no arguing, everything's fine. So I always tell people, don't fear. There is a lot of positives that sometimes come out of that when the families get together and throughout a hard time, and they're able to come out still friends and still family. But there is a lot of instances where we've seen kids, tear each other apart over that kid got $5,000 more than me or whatever, right? It's never over large amounts of money. And it's funny because it could really be eliminated a lot of the times by having that conversations ahead of time, having things set up properly like a trust and a will, and making sure your beneficiaries are labeled correctly. And typically having those conversations can help kind of ease a lot of that. But unfortunately, we do have a lot of experience dealing with when it doesn't go well, and having to, orchestrate through that could be somewhat difficult. And it's one of those things where, as the parent, you never want your kids to fight. So I think having that, or disagree. So I think having that in place ahead of time could be a big benefit.
I just want to ask you about one more situation here before we leave this topic of awkward moments. Let's say that someone knows they need to make a change from their current financial advisor. In their heart, they know it. But they've been working with this person for a very long time. Maybe they're a friend of the family or whatever, and they just don't know how tell that advisor that they want to move on and move their money someplace else? How do you advise them?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, right? I mean, I'll give you a quick little story here. I had a person who just came on board with us about a year ago from the radio, actually, called in, and him and his wife, and they had been with their advisor for, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And he did a great job. I mean, the accounts grew well. He was there to advise them through some tricky situations and did a really, really good job. But when it came time to the retirement planning phase, he wasn't able to provide, Social Security reports. He wasn't able to help them facilitate with Medicare. He didn't really look at much of the tax implications on things, right? And a lot of it was he was very market focused. He only believed you need to be in all stocks or bonds, and that was really kind of all they utilized. But when it came time for looking at cash flow, they had wanted things like annuities or insurance products and maybe the market, right? So I think it came to a point where they weren't able to get everything they needed out of that advisor at this point. Not that he had did anything wrong, their relationship was great, everything was good, but it just came to a point where they were looking for someone to provide more value and someone that specialized in a situation of life that they were transitioning to, right? So I think for those of you out there that already have an advisor and maybe you've been working with them, for him or her, for 5 years or 10 years, I think it's super important to understand what type of an advisor you have. I mean, what do they specialize in? What type of tools and services do they have to help get you in that phase? Again, if you're younger, it's always good to having an advisor that maybe specializes in that growth phase and helping clients that are younger. If you're, like a lot of you out there listening to the show, if you're 55 years old, 60 years old, and you're transitioning to retirement, it's very important to help make sure you have an advisor that is there to help guide you throughout this transition you're going to, because there's a lot of upcoming decisions you're going to have to make, and making sure you have the right advisor there to help guide you through that is extremely important. And one thing I always say for a lot of you out there listening to the show, if you have an advisor and maybe you've been happy with him or her, or maybe you haven't been happy with him or her, and you maybe have $200,000, or you might have $5 million, and you're looking for someone to maybe give you a second opinion and help walk you through your situation and maybe see if you can't find a better fit, or someone that might just be able to provide a little more value in your situation, that's what that discovery meeting's for. It's really a good chance for us just to get to know each other. I could explain a little bit more about our firm and our services and our value we bring to your retirement, and also gives me a chance to get to know you a little bit better and just see if we're a good fit to be the ones to help guide and transition you to and through retirement, because again, that is our specialty. Many of our clients that have been with our firm for 5 years, 10 years, maybe even over 20 years, we help transition them successfully to and through retirement.
Here's how you can get one of those discovery meetings that we talk about so often. It's simply a conversation with Logan Sadler about your financial situation. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. Call that number now. Leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Rigari, first opportunity, and then you can arrange a time to have your conversation with Logan. It's not going to cost you anything, not going to carry with it any kind of obligation at all. 888-823-PLAN. That is the number to call to make it happen. One more time, 888-823-PLAN. Remember also that at Rigari, they have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, everybody who really has anything to do with your financial life. Logan Sadler can help you with all that by offering you well-rounded guidance, taking in all the aspects of your financial life, offering you good guidance in all the things financial for their clients. That's what he's all about. Logan Sadler, 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here, along with Logan Sadler. There's more on the other side of this timeout.
Did you know music is good for the heart? A study at a university in Italy showed that music helps promote a better cardiovascular system. But we also know that a sound financial plan is good for peace of mind. Keep listening to the Financial Beat so we can help you find a plan that both your head and your heart can agree on.
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Go tell everybody you know. Logan's been doing this radio show for quite some time. Also, if there are shows that you have missed in the past, you can catch up by listening to some of those on the podcasts that are available. YouTube videos are out there for your assistance. And the best thing to do is just listen to this radio show every single week. Actually, that's not true. The best thing, even better than that, is calling Logan's office. Number to call is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. You can get a discovery meeting that way. That is a conversation via Zoom, or you might want to come into one of the offices, either Hemet or Redlands, have a conversation face-to-face with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you anything at all either way, and there are no strings attached. One more time, that number, 888-823-PLAN. Logan, let's go to the mailbag. We have some great questions this week. First one is from Roy in Winchester. And Roy said, my wife died a month ago, and she was the one who handled most of our financial matters. I'm in the process of organizing things right now. What are the main financial things that I need to be thinking about? She had been retired for a few years, and I just retired last year. How can you help Roy?
Yeah, sorry, Roy. That's well, thanks for writing in, but sorry, that's a tough situation to go through, and our condolences are with you. And thanks for writing to the show. So it's hard to give you some direct advice here without knowing a lot of your situation, but there's a few action items I'll give you that would be a great spot to start. And then any further questions, obviously our office is here, so if you need anything, and we're not too far from you over there in Winchester, so if you need anything or have further questions and might need some help diving deeper, give us a call. But essentially what I would start with is identify where all retirement accounts are, 403Bs, IRAs, 401Ks, all that stuff. Maybe any accounts you had, any accounts she had, get that identified. Insurance policies, did you have any life insurance or anything like that on her? If so, locate it, where is it at? And again, claims and all that stuff could be very time consuming. So if you need any help on that, let us know. Bank accounts. I always tell clients, spouses are really good at opening an account over here, over there, and it's hard to keep track sometimes. So kind of go through the mail or the documents you might have and see if there's any bank accounts out there you might not be aware of. That way we don't lose any money or misplace anything. Then looking at loans, right? Is there any car loans or boats or trucks or anything like that out there you don't know about? And then I'd say one of the most important things too is identifying if you have a trust or not. You probably remember if you do or you don't. You might not know where it's at, right? So go dig through the safe or the file cabinet and see if you could identify those. And then I would say, after you kind of identify everything, definitely give us a call or a financial advisor you trust and make sure you're going through it, because there's going to be a lot of different decisions and things like that might need to be made. And making sure you have someone to help walk you through all those is very, very important, because there might be tax implications or things like that on certain things. So making sure you're going through that properly, and then again helping establish a plan, because it sounded like she handled a lot of that. So getting something together for you as far as what's going to help make sure you're able to sustain your current lifestyle and the retirement you kind of hope for. And I always say, pass off all the stuff you don't have to do, right? You want to deal with the loss of your spouse and not all the paperwork. So find someone to help guide you through that. And obviously, like I said, we're here if you need anything.
Roy, again, I'd like to add my best thoughts and condolences to your situation, and I hope you will follow up with a phone call and talk face-to-face with Logan Sadler about all this, and he can give you much better advice if he knows more about the individual situation. 888-823-PLAN is the number to call. One more question today from Leslie in Canyon Lake, and Leslie says she just inherited some money from her aunt, and she says it would be enough to pay off her house, but her interest rate is barely over 3%, so should she even worry about paying it off?
Yeah, that's a really great question, right? I think one of the big things I would say is, inheritances and lump sums of cash are it's when you get them, obviously it's a great blessing. Obviously in your situation though, it sounds like you lost a family member, so there's obviously that there. But I mean, as far as the cash, a lot of people feel a big responsibility. I was just talking to a client's daughter the other day, where she had gotten some money from something and had a pretty good lump sum, and she said, I'm just so nervous to do the wrong thing with it, right? You feel like a little responsibility or a burden there to do the right thing, and you don't always know what the right thing is. And I think paying off the house always sounds like the best thing, and in some cases it might be, but in many cases, taking that money, investing it, or paying down other things might be a little bit better than just paying off your house, especially with just a 3% mortgage. Currently, you could probably put it in a CD or a treasury or anything like that. It's going to pay you 3, 4, maybe even 5%. So it gives you some good interest on that money, and you get to keep the money to where if something else happens down the road, you still have some access to it. So I would say, getting with a financial advisor and kind of building out a plan. I don't know exactly how much the money is. It might be $100,000, it might be $500,000, but getting a plan built into where you can kind of see realistically, if we did this or that, what would be the benefit? How would it help me? And what are the long-term and short-term effects of those decisions decisions and then going from there. But before paying it off or doing any of that, give us a call. And like I said, we can kind of go through some of the intricate parts of what might be some of the better decisions or what mathematically works out to help accomplish your goals.
All right. If you want to call Logan Sadler's office, here's the number, 888-823-PLAN. We really appreciate your listening to the show today. Why not, right now, without any hesitation, pick up your phone, call 888-823-PLAN, leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back first part of the week from the good folks at Regary Financial, and you can arrange a time to have your conversation with Logan Sadler. It will be via Zoom. And if you prefer, it can be in the office, either in Hemet or Redlands. Your opportunity. Don't pass it up. It's free. There's no obligation involved. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. You've been listening to the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here at Logan. Well, I'm with Logan Sadler. Hey, Logan, it's been fun.
Yeah, Ron, I enjoyed today's show. I feel like we talked about a lot of sensitive and emotional things, but also some fun things. And hopefully all you guys out there listening got some value and some education. And I've been meeting with a lot of you guys lately that have been calling in and coming into the office, or a lot of you too over the phone or via Zoom. And again, appreciate you guys and the kind thoughts on the show. And I guess what? Me and Ron are going to be back here next week with another action-packed show full of hopefully some good value. And again, thank you all out there for watching the YouTube videos and checking out all the other content we're putting out there. We really enjoy doing it for you, and glad you guys are taking some value and enjoying it yourselves.
Hey, it's really good to know that there are some people listening to the show today who are going to call you. You're going to get to know some new people, and that's always good. And the best thing is you got to get to know Logan as well. One more time in that phone number, 888-823-PLAN. This has been the Financial Beat. Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. See you next week.
Regary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.